And welcome to the fifth part of using Warcraft Logs. This is a series where each week I do an episode, first of all uploaded to Patreon, but then it comes out on YouTube a bit later in the week, where I look at a particular aspect of using Warcraft Logs. This week it's going to be on priority target. So what we should already know is that on a raid boss, it's not always, especially from the DPS's point of view, about doing our maximum amount of DPS, doing the maximum numbers. Often there's a particular part of the fight where there's a target that you have to unload your DPS in to kill it really quickly, or to push it past a phase really quickly if it's a boss. On the other hand, sometimes there is an ad that you mustn't touch. Sometimes you don't want to kill ads too quickly, or it will do some harm to you if you do some damage at a particular time. And it's that first one we're going to have a look at first of all. So let's have a look at Demonic Inquisition here. So we could have a look at the heroic version. The same would equally apply to the mythic version. So I'm just going to click on enemies here. So in particular, Fell Squall. When Balak does Fell Squall, if we do any damage to Balak at that time, it's going to increase our level of torment. If our torment fills up, then that means we can't do any damage at all. We have to go and reset that. That's taking time out. It means we're not going to be doing any damage at all at that point. So what I'm going to have a look at here is the periods of time when he's casting Fell Squall. The same would equally apply to Atrigan when he's doing Bone Saw as it happens, but this is just to show you the general idea. So I'm just going to highlight one of the particular periods of time when he's casting Fell Squall. So at this particular point, we don't want to be doing any damage to him at all. Now we can easily see if there's any actual damage being taken by this particular boss. I'm just going to be done by source first of all, and then I'm going to click on damage taken. So what we've got here is during this period of time, so I've zoomed in just to this period of time, so when Fell Squall is active, Belak is selected here. It's damage taken by Belak. Now by default it tends to go on taken from ability, so I'm going to click that back down to taken from source, because we can look at the individual abilities here. So we can see there's a number of people have done some damage to it. At the top you can see generally ones that will be applying dots, and this is the most likely source of damage. So you just sort of check down each one that in reality what you've got here is a dot that was already on the boss before Fell Squall was cast. Make sure there's no actual abilities that are hard cast to it. If you're not sure about it, obviously that's a pet, a hunter pet, can't do a lot about that. If you're not sure about it and you're maybe not sure enough about different classes and you want to check that no one was actually hard targeting the boss at that time, again we can just have a look at that time. So it's from 36 seconds to 53 seconds, and this is where we can use the replay function. So I've talked about the replay function in an earlier episode, but just to quickly show you the benefit of it here. So we're just going to make sure it's definitely in that period of time there. So if I click on Balak, we can see that he's casting his Fell Squall. So then all I could do is just check that no one is actually targeting Balak. That's a healer, that's fine. Make sure the DPS are all targeting Atrigan. On Atrigan, as you can see, that is the case. So all is bit slow to take off there. Hopefully that will switch to Atrigan. There we go, switching to Atrigan there. Maybe a little bit slow. It's our raid leader as well. God blimey. So that just shows you how you can check that someone's not doing it a particular period of time. Now another example of something that shouldn't be being attacked at a particular time is on Fallen Avatar. So here we've got a situation where we've got the Maiden up at various times of the fight. Again, make sure it's set on enemies. We can see Maiden of Valor here. Maiden of Valor gets a debuff at various points called Maintenance. This is where it gets stunned, and this is where people need to switch to that. So there's a couple of things we can have a look at here. First of all, we're going to check down for maintenance. Oh, behave yourself. Okay, it's playing about. Not maintenance, malfunction. Behave yourself. So, malfunction. So these are the times when malfunction is being cast. So I'm just going to pick a period, being careful not to clip the maintenance itself. So in this period of time, I'm just going to make sure here, we're just waiting for it to load up, taken by enemy, because obviously damage is going on. It's specifically damage on the Maiden of Valor we want to make sure is not going on. Okay, so Maiden of Valor is highlighted there, and then we can click down damage from source, because this will list any players that are doing damage to it. So again, usual thing, you just check down if it's in. This is one where it's quite close to the boss, so it's possible that some passive cleave might be going on to it. Obviously, you know, Shadow Priest, for example, gets some single target benefit from keeping dots up on a secondary target, so that's fine. Obviously, there'll be a tank on it. Oh, Umbral Glaive Storm. Interesting use of an AoE trinket there on a single target fight. Should be remembering that one later. But again, you just go down, just making sure that that if someone does some damage to it, that there is some good reason for that damage to go onto it. That one's a bit strange. Okay, so you could be able to tell if anyone was doing damage to it during a period of time when they shouldn't. Now, the counter is also true here. So I'm going to go back onto debuffs. I'm also going to reset the zoom. And again, we're going to check that malfunction debuff. So I'm just going to actually highlight that period. It's going in there. So I'm going to, again, highlight this. So this is a period of time. There's just a few seconds. We broke it out really easily. But again, just to check. In fact, actually, should we pick on that one? Because that was 3 seconds. Some people may not have actually had much time to do anything about it there. This is about 5 seconds. So everyone should have at least been able to switch. So we should also be checking that everyone was also doing some damage to it as well. So again, Maiden of Valor, but not from ability, from source. And just to check that as many people as possible, especially ranged, some melee, obviously you can see myself and the other rep were struggling to get onto that one because we're having to run along there on our 3-legged donkey, whereas anyone who was able to get there quickly should be able to switch to it. But ideally we would want to be able to see the ranged players at least doing some damage to that, switching to it, so that she doesn't actually get the cast off. So for another example of how we can look at targets here, we're going to look at Mistress Sassy. Now on this one, you've got a number of ads, and of course what we want to do is to DPS those ads down, AoE them down, they're tanked on the boss. However, on this particular fight, if you kill the ads too quickly, then the puddle that they spawn, which we very much need to keep ourselves alive from tornadoes, might disappear before the tornadoes are passed over it, in which case we're left without a gap. So this didn't happen here, but let's just say for the sake of argument that the first set of ads died too quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on those ads, which is the Abyss Stalkers. And we can see here, this is the first period of time when they were alive. And let's say this particular one, these ones died too quickly. And let's say the raid leader at the time was screaming for people to stop DPS on them. This wasn't happening, so anyone that gets highlighted here, by the way, was blameless because we actually did this fine, but just for the sake of argument. So we'd probably highlight a period of time towards the end of that period, so after the point at which DPS was called to be stopped. And we'd have a look, again, damage by source, at who was doing damage to them. So damage taken. Damage from source. No available data in table. Let's try that again. So let's say this particular period at the end here. Again, just for the sake of argument. Okay, so there we go. So in this particular case, we might look at that and go, oh, bashed, oh, naughty. You were absolutely blowing those ads up. We'd said to stop. Didn't actually happen, by the way. He's not to blame here because we did actually kill these in a reasonable amount of time. But let's just say, so you'd be able to see that in that particular snapshot of time. So you're not looking at who's done how much damage to the ads in general, because if they burst it at the start, then that's sort of okay. It's a case of when we could see that they were getting really low a bit too early, did people take their DPS off it or not? So we could use it for that as well. Now finally, in terms of an ad that should be DPS'd towards the end where a hard swap is called for, I'm going to look at Mythic Sisters of the Moon and the Moon Talon, which is the owl type creature. Now what we tend to do on this one is to cleave, but then towards the end, just before Embrace of the Night comes in, what we want to do is to hard swap to make sure that that Moon Talon dies before we all have to move in for Embrace. So I'm just going to, for this particular Moon Talon, highlight that. And then I'm just going to pick off the last 10 seconds, which is the point at which people should be hard swapping to it. So damage taken, again, of the Moon Talon, damage taken, again, by default, it always puts it on ability, which is actually really annoying because you may find that Warcraft Logs really slows down. And actually, you may find at certain times, by the way, little tip, that it keeps crashing. If it does that, try another browser. I find with Microsoft Edge, it often crashes on this. So I'm using Chrome here. That seems to work pretty well. But taken from source is a much better one. So we can see the people that have hard swapped to that. We just sort of make sure that everyone was actually doing that. And again, you can tell the abilities that they're doing. If you've got abilities like from a melee, if there's actual melee damage on it, it must be targeting it. If there's any doubt at all, again, you can go back to the replay function and have a look what the actual target is to make sure that they're not just cleaving off that boss again. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a look at what you can do for telling if you or other people are switching to priority ads at the right time, and more importantly, or at least as importantly, making sure that you are not doing DPS on ads at the wrong time, because that can be just as dangerous and easily lead to a wipe. So I hope you found the video useful. As always, if you did, don't forget to subscribe for further content, and until next time, I'll see you later.